5:34 a.m., a Toyota Camry turns onto Progress Drive in Strongsville, Ohio. The driver is 17-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla. Two passengers are with her boyfriend Dominic and their friend DaVon. Watch what happens next. 1 minute. That's how long it took Mackenzie to accelerate from 30 miles per hour to over 100. The car hit the wall with so much force it split in half. Dominic Russo, 20 years old, died instantly. DaVon Flanigan, 19 years old, died instantly. Mackenzie survived.
Eyes forward. There was a confidence about her.
For months, everyone assumed this was a tragic accident, a teenager driving recklessly, a terrible mistake. But then, investigators discovered something. Mackenzie had driven this exact route 7 times in the weeks before the crash. She'd been practicing. This wasn't reckless driving. This wasn't an accident. This was murder, carefully planned, meticulously practiced. And the motive? It had everything to do with the one thing Mackenzie wanted more than anything in the world: to be famous. The Mackenzie Shirilla case. Before we talk about murder, we need to understand who Mackenzie was, or more accurately, who she desperately wanted to be. From middle school, Mackenzie had one goal: become an influencer. Not just popular, not just well-liked. She wanted Instagram fame, brand deals, modeling contracts. She wanted strangers to recognize her, to follow her, to obsess over her. Every outfit was chosen for photos. Every friendship was evaluated for content potential. Every moment was documented for her growing audience. By high school, the transformation was dramatic. Designer bags worth more than most students' monthly allowances appeared regularly. Prada, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, expensive shoes, fuzzy boots, high-end brands that screamed wealth and status. Her poses were identical in every photo, the same kissy face, the same sultry expressions, calculated for maximum likes and engagement. But building a successful influencer brand requires more than just expensive accessories. You need the right supporting cast. Rosie and Nina were her inner circle. The rest served as backup dancers in Mackenzie's carefully staged life. But she needed one more thing to complete her perfect Instagram aesthetic: the perfect boyfriend. Enter Dominic Russo. Dominic was 20 years old when they started dating. Mackenzie was 3 years younger, 17. But age wasn't the only attractive quality for Mackenzie's brand. He came from money, real money. He lived in his own house right next door to his parents. He had a recording studio. He dabbled in cryptocurrency. He wanted to be a singer. Most importantly, he funded Mackenzie's lifestyle: designer clothes, expensive trips, content creation opportunities. Dominic was perfect for her image. But there was something else funding Mackenzie's expensive lifestyle, something she kept hidden from her polished Instagram feed. Keep this detail in mind, because it reveals who Mackenzie really was beneath her perfectly curated posts. Where was the money really coming from? Mackenzie had no job, no documented income, but she was spending thousands on designer items, posting photos with stacks of cash that no teenager legitimately earns. When police eventually decrypted her phone, they found the answer: Snapchat messages dated July 22nd, 2022, just 8 days before the crash. Mackenzie was negotiating prices with clients, quote, $1,000 for pictures, $2,500 for in-person meetings where she would do anything you want. She'd obtained fake IDs to pass as an adult. This wasn't typical teenage social media. This was an illegal business operation. And Dominic was starting to figure it out. By spring 2022, their relationship was deteriorating. Dominic had tried to break up with Mackenzie multiple times, but she wouldn't let him. She'd show up at his house uninvited, demanding to be let in. She'd threatened to damage his property, and she'd threatened something else. That threat came just 2 weeks before the crash. She'd already told him exactly what she was planning. July 2022, while Mackenzie maintained her Instagram presence and kept up appearances, she was planning something. Investigators would later discover GPS data from her phone that revealed a chilling pattern. In the weeks leading up to July 30th, Mackenzie had driven down Progress Drive, the same road where the crash occurred, 7 different times. These weren't random drives. They were reconnaissance missions. She was studying the road, the approach angle, the brick wall at the end. She was practicing her murder. Her phone also contained videos of her driving recklessly, letting go of the steering wheel at high speeds, and crashing during practice runs while laughing. She'd been testing vehicle dynamics, learning exactly how much speed she'd need, what impact force would be fatal. This wasn't impulsive rage. This was calculated murder planned over weeks. July 30th, 2022, around 3 a.m., Mackenzie, Dominic, and DaVon had been at Cardi's throughout the night. At 5:15 a.m., Mackenzie announced it was time to go home, and she insisted on driving. When DaVon asked for a ride, Mackenzie initially refused to let him in the car. After an argument, Dominic convinced her to give their friend a ride. That decision sealed DaVon's fate. Instead of driving toward DaVon's house, Mackenzie made a turn that took them in the opposite direction. She turned onto Progress Drive, the road she'd practiced on 7 times before, the road that ended in a brick wall. At 5:34 a.m., surveillance cameras captured Mackenzie approaching the intersection. Watch her driving. She's using her turn signal. She's braking carefully. She's driving slowly and deliberately. This is someone in complete control of the vehicle. Now watch what happens 50 seconds later. The same car, now moving over 100 miles per hour. She'd accelerated from 30 to 100 in less than a minute, and investigators found something crucial. She never touched the brakes. No skid marks, no attempt to slow down, no evidence she tried to avoid the collision. The surveillance proves Mackenzie made a deliberate choice to accelerate to maximum speed and maintain it all the way to impact. The car split in half on impact. Pieces scattered across the road. Dominic Russo died instantly. DaVon Flanigan died instantly. Mackenzie survived. And there's one detail that proves this wasn't a suicide attempt. Mackenzie was the only person in the car wearing a seatbelt. For 55 minutes, the wreckage went undiscovered. At 6:15 a.m., a motorcyclist called 911. When first responders arrived, they found Mackenzie wedged under the dashboard, alive, conscious. But here's what made investigators suspicious. While being treated at the hospital, Mackenzie made statements to medical staff that would later destroy her defense. Dr. Esther Singh testified about what Mackenzie said just hours after the crash. Patient stated she wanted to die and that it was her fault for killing her boyfriend. This wasn't something said weeks later after thinking about legal strategy. This was Mackenzie, hours after the crash, admitting it was her fault. But then her story changed. By the time of her trial, Mackenzie claimed she had no memory of the crash, that she'd suffered a medical emergency, that it was all an accident. But investigators had evidence that proved otherwise. The GPS data showing 7 practice runs, the surveillance footage showing controlled acceleration, the hospital confession, the threatening videos from weeks before, and there was her behavior after the crash. 3 weeks after killing 2 people, Mackenzie was discharged from the hospital. She never attended Dominic's funeral. She never attended DaVon's funeral. Instead, she went to a concert, in a wheelchair, but dressed in a cute outfit, taking photos for Instagram. When a modeling agency commented on her hospital photos, saying she was beautiful, Mackenzie replied, "I can't wait either. Thank you so much for this opportunity." 2 people were dead, and she was excited about career opportunities that emerged from their deaths. But the most shocking moment came 3 months later, Halloween 2022. Mackenzie posted a video showing her costume. She was dressed as a corpse, fake blood smeared across her mouth, elaborate death makeup. 3 months after creating actual corpses, Mackenzie was making light of death itself. DaVon's family saw the post. They were devastated. They took it to police. The Halloween costume became crucial evidence that Mackenzie showed no remorse whatsoever for what she'd done. November 4th, 2022, more than 3 months after the crash, Mackenzie Shirilla was arrested and charged with murder. She chose a bench trial, putting her fate in the hands of one judge instead of a jury. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. The surveillance footage showing deliberate acceleration, the GPS data showing she'd practiced the route 7 times, the hospital confession where she admitted fault, the threatening videos from weeks before, her disturbing behavior after the crash. Mackenzie's defense claimed she'd suffered a medical emergency, that she'd lost consciousness, that it was all an accident. But the evidence was too strong.
So she's sentenced on count 2, the murder of DaVon Flanigan, 15 years to life. She's sentenced on count 1, the murder of Dominic Russo, 15 years to life, to be served concurrent to each other with credit for time served. I'll waive fines, fees, and costs, and your appellate counsel will be assigned. Are there any questions from the state?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Guilty on all 12 counts. August 21st, 2023, Mackenzie Shirilla was sentenced to 2 life sentences with the possibility of parole after 15 years. She won't be eligible for release until 2037. She'll be in her mid-30s. The entirety of her 20s will be spent behind bars. Mackenzie wanted to be famous. She got her wish, but not the way she planned. 5:34 a.m., a car turns on Progress Drive. 50 seconds later, it's moving over 100 miles per hour towards a brick wall. Mackenzie accelerated to maximum speed and never touched the brakes. Dominic Russo was 20 years old. He wanted to be a singer. He wanted a future. DaVon Flanigan was 19 years old. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He asked for a ride home. Both of them died because a 17-year-old girl valued Instagram fame and control more than human life. Mackenzie is now serving life in prison. She writes in her journal every day, "The truth will set me free." But the truth already spoke. The surveillance cameras, the GPS data, the hospital confession, the 7 practice runs. The truth convicted her. Was the 15-year minimum sentence enough? Comment below. Subscribe to Her Case Files. New cases every week.